And now for our speaker, Reverend Julianne.
No matter who we are, no matter where we come from or how we live, we all have three things in common. Three things in common during this worldly experience: a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's called life in the material world. However, from my perception, it is also called a story. A story with a beginning, a story with a middle, a story with an end. Now, how many of you have ever read a story? What happens in those stories? The author is writing things down, and she goes from page 1 to page 2, and things change. Now, that's called life. And our stories are sometimes very happy. They're very fun. They're mind-opening. They're transforming. They're loving. They're generous. They're full of appreciation, as Manny said. And then, sometimes, they appear the direct opposite. We get the feeling that we give ourselves permission to hold these experiences, these stories within us, sometimes subconsciously, sometimes very consciously, and they inform future reactions, beliefs, fears, limits to what we seek to achieve or feel we can achieve in this story. However, when we will give ourselves permission to remember that thoughts in mind produce in kind, this story of ours can shift. We can take responsibility for it. We can be a co-author with the divine. Now, this story is ours to mold and create, and we underestimate the choices and the power those choices have. Mary Oliver asks, tell me what it is you plan to do with this one wild and precious life. We resist all kinds of things in our lives, and we put considerable effort into resisting through denial, hesitation, judgment, and fear. A list of things we resist. I mean, you talk about needing a roll of toilet paper to make that list. We've done it. You know you have. Now there's a time for us to look at that differently. Change. We resist it. But yet today, since we've been gathered together, how many people have talked about how grateful we are for the change, giving us permission to use Zoom, to connect, to be together, to see each other. We have this opportunity in so many different ways. How often do we resist self-care? How often do we resist personal growth? Oh, I tell you, the list goes on and on. We had a beautiful lady the other day in our gratitude sharing that said, this is the first time that for 4 months, I have been able to focus on my spiritual growth. And that just kind of took my breath away. I took that in and I'm thinking to myself, yes, and we're grateful. And how often are we grateful for things that are so different in our lives? You know, we resist. And I remember as a child growing up in Wisconsin at my grandparents' during the summer. They had a beautiful lodge on a trout stream. And I spent so much time playing at that riverside, watching the water flow, every now and then seeing a fish jump, seeing the birds, seeing all of those things going on, just being present to it as a child. And I was thinking back on that this week because I'd like very much to get out and go to the trout stream, but I'm not going to make a trip to Wisconsin at this time. But in my mind and in my heart, I can share that experience. And I remembered how that in the particular place where I used to play, there was a very large rock. And I always wanted to get to that rock because it was strong. And then I realized that maybe the water was stronger. And I asked my grandfather about it. And he told me, he said, the rock resists, the water goes with the flow. And here I am so many years later, remembering that. Like that rock in the stream, we resist. But if we are like the water and flow around the seeming rocks, following the path of least resistance, water seeks its own level all of the time, doesn't it? It seeks balance, it seeks equilibrium, and it takes the path of least resistance. How might our lives be different if we chose to be more like the water than the rock in that stream? What lies behind us and what lies before us are very small matters compared to what lies within us, said Ralph Waldo Emerson. Stop and think for a moment about what lies within us. Think about how currents are persistent, and sometimes frequently, in fact, there is little or nothing we can do about it. If we resist and swim furiously, fighting that current, we waste our energy. The current persists, and it's stronger than the very best swimmer. One must either swim parallel to the shore or simply float until the current has dissipated. Both safe approaches are not about fighting, not about resisting that current. Now, when I look back on my life, and I have been doing that quite a bit over the last 4 months, but when I look back on my life, I can see how frequently I had actually resisted the spiritual current of my soul, the current of spirit. Like the swimmer exhausted by swimming against the current, I became exhausted myself by trying to fight that current. Now, when we become mindful of the currents in our lives and how spirit is guiding us and working through us, we see and experience things differently. You know, one of the things that I have heard over and over and over again is I don't have enough energy with this quarantine, with being here, with being by myself so much more. I don't have this energy. And I began to thinking to myself, you know, I hear that a lot from other people. Why am I hearing that? Because it's true for me too. Do I have time? Do I take the time? Okay. How often do we block the things that give us joy, that give us an idea for transformation, to share our creativity? How often do we do that? We resist the creative energy within us when we do that. And perhaps, just perhaps, we can gain some of that back to us by resolving not to create the resistance, not to persist at that resistance. You know, the Buddha supposedly said, change is never painful, only resistance to change is painful. Yeah. Now that takes a deep breath in too, doesn't it? You see, we have to be aware that our defenses affect not only what is outside of us, but they affect ourselves and what's going on in here. They reinforce our sense of seeming weakness. We feel betrayed by the world outside and do not recognize the power of manifestation by our own defenses. It is as if we're trapped in this circle within another circle, within another circle, and the basic circle then becomes fear. And it surrounds us, and we find ourselves unable to break out of that attack defense cycle. We have become so accustomed to the subconscious hum of fear. Now, we do not realize how much we have sabotaged our own peace and creativity by our stance of constant defensiveness. It was really interesting yesterday because we did a video, and after we had completed the video, the gentleman that had filmed it said, let's listen to this for a moment. And I heard this hum of the air conditioner. Immediately, my resistance went up. Immediately, I thought, we're going to have to redo this or not do it at all. I was not a happy camper, so to speak. And then the gentleman took a deep breath and he said, no worries. He said, I'll tweak the video. I'll be able to adjust it. He said, I know it doesn't sound real good right now, but it will. And I had to just kind of step back and look at what I had almost manifested. An hour work in the studio, 3 hours work putting this together. And here I am saying, oh, this is not going to work. The videographer, what did he say? Oh, don't worry about it. It's all good. He said, I can hear it too, and it's going to be fine. See, we have that choice. We always have that choice. And we don't realize how much we don't take that choice. You see, it goes down to two things. We choose our defenselessness, which is our strength, or we go against that and we choose our ego weakness. Look at it as two games. The silly game of defense and resistance that's played by tired children, too sleepy to remember what they want, and the game that happy children play. That joyous game that teaches us that the game of fear is gone. The happy game shares love, light, power, and presence in our experience. And when that happens for us, yes, our vibration goes out and we share it with our world. Imagine for just a moment what it would be like to be completely without any fear. I found a poem by Denis Levertov, and the poem says, as swimmers dare to lie face to the sky and water bears them, as hawks rest upon air and air sustains them, so would I learn to attain free fall and float into Creator's Spirit's deep embrace, knowing no effort earns that all surrounding grace. And I thought to myself, yes, no effort earns that all sustaining grace. This is, as I see it, the best gift that comes from letting go of our efforts at resistance, to experience the grace of divine spirit, embrace the holy as we define it. This grace is not something that we fight for or we have to manifest with our efforts. It simply is. That grace is like the currents, the flow of energy, the spin of the earth, and it is attained through no defense, no resistance. Joel Goldsmith describes grace as a sea of spirit. Is the universal or divine mind is what grace is. And when we acknowledge it, we are affirming that we are one with God, one with spiritual beings and divine creative energy. We affirm our oneness with this infinite mind. We touch and we reach each other, we commune and we're brought into fellowship with all, and we find instantly available to us all forms of good, and they manifest as supply, activity, opportunity, home, comfort, transportation, companionship, healing, harmony. The list goes on and on. In conscious contact with this spirit of the mind, we find divine love pouring itself into expression, into our personal experience, and we become defenseless, not by personal effort, but through grace. This is the grace that we have within us consistently. It's never gone. We appear to be blocking it. And our willingness comes to receive it, to share it, when we stop resisting the path before us. When we are willing to see that path with a light shining on it. You see, that is so important for us to recognize that light, that grace shining. I believe in prayer. Now, not that kind of prayer that I grew up with that list of things that I wanted to have for Christmas. Not that kind of prayer that looks for some magical outcome. I'm not saying that. The prayer that I believe in is a prayer that begins with, guide me, Spirit. Show me another way of seeing and experiencing my material world experience. And perhaps most fundamentally, it's a kind of prayer that begins with the affirmation, I am here now. God is. I am. And perhaps throughout the day, we are not recognizing the opportunities that we have to pause, to take that deep breath in and say, Holy Spirit, I come to you today to seek the peace that you alone can give. I come in silence, in the quiet of my heart, the deep recesses of my mind, and wait to listen to your voice. Speak to me today. Speak softly. When we do that, we come into the present moment. We come fully into that moment. And we may encounter no more than silence. We may receive no more than a brief respite from the winds that we feel that are battering our mind. But we may, and often do, receive so very much more. Peace of mind, peace of heart, a more grounded and steady understanding of how we take the next step. And that precious reminder of how we really choose to be in the world, how we desire to feel in the world, and how we truly desire to act in the world so that we are, in fact, truly helpful. Reverend Bellatini said it so well. He said, let the breathing in this room be free and flowing. Let pulses trance a slower rhythm in the wrist. Let the coming silence be like hands pulling back a curtain, revealing the table set with the feast of life, which is present here and now and has been the whole while, present to those who give up living in either the past or the future. The words of defenselessness are not, I give up. They are not cynical, you win. They are not, I quit. The words they are, I have something to learn. I am here now. The act of surrendering is not losing self. The act of releasing and letting go is not weakness. As Lao Tzu said, to yield is to be preserved whole. As we rise to meet all the seeming challenges of our lives, all the winds, all the chaos, we remember the value of trust. And in that trust, we acknowledge grace. And now we can move forward, recognizing our soul truth and our power and divine guidance. Our minds accept as truth the critical statements that we tell ourselves, but it can and it will accept our positive affirmations. The words we speak, the words we think, hold a great energy over the kind of life that we create for ourselves, and yes, that we share with others. Don't allow yourself to be plagued by the negative thoughts. Once they enter the realm of consciousness, they enter our subconscious, and then they seem to take over the power of our lives. The affirmations that we create make a difference. And if we give ourselves permission to say them, to speak them, to think them, our conviction will grow stronger. And be sure to say them aloud. They're very powerful for creating our desired reality. What I want you to understand is that release of resistance is not a loss, but it is a gain, and it is a blessing. And it is very important for us to understand that. You see, as we rise to meet all the seeming challenges of our lives, all the winds, all the chaos, we remember the value of trust. And in that trust, we acknowledge our grace. And now we can move forward in prayer, accepting divine guidance, recognizing our soul truth, our soul power. And then we share the affirmations, we strengthen our resolve, and we believe in ourselves. And we honor our creativity, our talents, and yes, our dreams. We now commit to a way that leads ever onward, releasing the negativity And fear allows us to give up resistance. As A Course in Miracles shares, your safety lies in your defenselessness. And so it is. So what I'd like to do is to give us a few minutes of quiet reflection. I ask that you sit comfortably, relax your body, close your eyes if you choose, or focus on a particular object in the room. Pay attention to your breathing. Follow the natural rhythm. Feel it coming and going, quietly, quietly carrying you deeper and deeper within. Deeper and deeper within. And take a breath. Take that breath in and gently let it go. Take another deep breath in and gently let it go. And take another deep breath in and gently let it go. Become aware of your own heart space. Know you are safe. Know you are secured. Know you are loved. And say to yourself, or speak it out loud, I am yours, God. I am yours, mind, body, and spirit. I feel your light. I feel the fullness of your love, the strength of your power, your holy presence. Feel that love. Feel that strength. Feel that power. Do you hear me? I am speaking to you, not in words, but in your innermost heart, in the silence of your soul. I am the love in you. And I speak, yet it is not I, but the divine truth that speaks. I am the love in you, the beloved of the divine in you. Do you hear me? I am speaking to you right here, right now. I am speaking of the beauty and the peace that you are, and the infinite possibilities of creativity that you have before you, the wonderful powers that are within you to create the good, the beautiful, and the holy. I am speaking to you of mysteries of the Spirit, of everlasting love, of unending eternal life. I am speaking to you of inner reality and outer realization. I am speaking to you of greatness and goodness, of dreams fulfilled, of prayers answered, of appreciation of things present, of gratitude for the things to come. Listen, beloved, hear me. In the silence of your soul, I speak. And being aware of your own heart space, being aware that you are safe and secure and loved. Listen now to the music of grace.
Endless grace.
Endless Grace is played now by Jim Sorensen.